Welcome to the GameRamble video review for Death's Hangover, narrated by me, Darkcloud. As always, the full text version of this review can be found on the GameRamble website linked below. The TLDR for Death's Hangover is that you help Death take back the soul stolen by Bastard Dragula in this breakout style game by Retro Army Limited. It features plenty of different levels, useful power-ups and some big bosses. The game is easy to pick up and play, but finding all the souls can be challenging. The 18 different endings, 2-player mode and level editor boost the replay value though, and overall the game is a decent choice for fans of the genre. Gameplay receives a 7 out of 10. The game is challenging and entertaining. Graphics receives an 8 out of 10. The pixel art visuals of Death's Hangover look great. Sound receives a 7 out of 10. The audio features decent sound effects and music. The overall score for Death's Hangover is 7.3 out of 10. And now for a full review. One day, Death wakes up with a hangover and discovers that he's been robbed of his souls by Bastard Dragula. Not willing to let something like this slide, Death summons 2 souls and gives them new bodies to travel to Bastard Dragula's castle and retrieve the stolen goods. Unfortunately for Death, the 2 souls, Andy and Bob, are not very bright. However, with the threat of Death killing them all over again if they fail, Andy and Bob take on the perils of Bastard Dragula's castle. Death's Hangover is the work of Retro Army Limited and features the same style of pixel art visuals and slightly questionable humor found in her other games. The gameplay of this title is based on classic bat and ball games such as Arkanoid and Breakout. In this case, the bat is actually a large mattress held by Andy, and the ball is Bob encased in some spiky shell. Unlike most games in this genre, the goal is not to clear the screen of all the bricks. Instead, players must smash down the doors to exit each room of the castle. Occasionally there are rooms where the doors open only after a certain number of enemies are killed, while other rooms are home to the captive souls that must be freed. At the end of each area there's also a giant boss for Andy and Bob to defeat before they can continue with their quest. Death's Hangover features nearly 100 rooms to conquer, but not all of them can be completed in one sitting. Instead, the castle is divided into different areas such as the catacombs, dungeon, sewers, monastery, furnace, arena and church. Simply bashing down all the doors will take players through a specific route in the castle, but finding the hidden keys inside some of the breakable blocks will open up an alternate secret route. This gives the game some replay value, especially as collecting all the souls without accidentally leaving a room can be tricky. Players have limited lives but can spend their collected souls on the cheat death wheel if they run out. The wheel allows players to continue in the room where they died and might even throw in a power up depending on their luck. However, if players run out of souls upon death, it's back to the start of the area. Don't be too wasteful of those collected souls, as you need at least 4 of them to progress to the game's final area. We recommend failing in this at least once though, as it prompts a showdown with Death and an ending that sheds more light on certain story elements. Speaking of endings, the game boasts 18 different ones. Completing the game for the first time unlocks the story mode, which adds some 2D side-scrolling sections between areas. Although short and linear, these sections flesh out the story a bit, which makes it strange that it's not the default way to play the game for the first time. A 2-player mode and built-in level editor add some further replay value to the game. Visually, Death's Hangover looks decent and embraces its comedy horror themes with squirting blood, burning villages and even poop monsters. The number of different enemies in the game is quite impressive, and wiping out bats, spiders, worms and other critters keeps you on your toes. The different areas also have playing fields that influence your ball differently. For example, cobwebs can slow down the ball as it travels through them, while the side walls in another area can break if hit enough, causing you to lose a life if the ball falls through. Bosses are big and impressive looking too. Some of the later levels and bosses also change the gameplay dynamic from breakout to pong as you try to get your ball past them instead of hitting them. While Death's Hangover has a lot of banter between the characters, there's no voice acting in the game, so everything is conveyed via text boxes. The humor can sometimes be a little childish, but Retro Army Limited fans should be used to this by now. The music and sound effects are not especially noticeable, but do a good job setting the game's mood. Your paddle can be controlled with a mouse, keyboard or controller, and all the methods work fine. The ability to fine-tune the speed and sensitivity of your chosen input method is also welcome. Although you can only move your paddle left or right, you can also increase or decrease the speed of the ball by holding down the relevant button. This sometimes feels like cheating, as there's no limit to how often you can do so. Death's Hangover has plenty of power-ups too, such as glue for making the ball stick to your mattress until launch, bombs for blowing up enemies, spikes for making your mattress deadly to the touch, and the obligatory multi-ball. The bomb power-up in particular is so deadly that it can easily blow up even bosses, so it's worth holding onto them if possible. The only issue we had with the controls was that collision detection, especially for things like the lightning bolts shot by some bosses, can feel slightly off. Overall, Death's Hangover is a charming and playable breakout game that can quickly kill an hour or 2 on a slow afternoon. It has lots of levels and endings, so it is also a game that you might want to return to now and then. It's not quite addictive enough to keep you hooked for hours on end, and the humor won't be to everyone's liking, but it is fun to play. Thanks for joining me for this Death's Hangover PC review. Remember to like, subscribe and share. Until next time.